The deep space science vessel Astral Seeker drifted silently through the void, its sensors sweeping across an uncharted solar system. Commander Zixthar stood on the bridge, his four eyes blinking in sequence as he studied the holographic display before him. "Interesting readings from the third planet," reported Science Officer Meal. Her slender fingers danced across the control panel. "High oxygen levels, abundant water, and, wait, that can't be right." "What is it?" Zixthar moved closer, his exoskeleton clicking softly against the metal floor. "The radiation levels, sir. The ozone layer is damaged, and these temperature variations are extreme. Desert regions reach scorching highs while polar areas plunge below freezing. How could intelligent life evolve in such conditions?" Zixthar hummed thoughtfully, a sound that resonated from his throat sacs. "Are you detecting signs of civilization?" "Yes, sir. Radio waves, artificial satellites, extensive city structures, but also concerning levels of pollutants and clear evidence of ongoing warfare. A primitive species, then, still fighting among themselves." Zixthar nodded. "Prepare a full report for Confederation headquarters. I believe we found another Deathworld." 3 standard months later, the Confederation Council officially classified Earth as a Class 14 Deathworld, among the most dangerous habitable planets ever discovered. Despite this, they authorized first contact, following standard protocol for worlds that had achieved spaceflight, however limited. Senior diplomat Vreelox was less than pleased with his assignment. "I researched Earth extensively," he complained to his aide as their shuttle prepared for descent. "The humans have thousands of different languages, constantly changing political boundaries, and a history of extreme violence. Even their entertainment depicts warfare." His aide, Junior Diplomat Trell, checked the atmospheric readings nervously. "I heard their planet has microscopic organisms that cause disease. Will our immunizations protect us?" "The medical team assures me we're safe," Vreelox said, though his skin rippled with doubt, changing from green to a worried blue. "Remember, we must appear confident. The Confederation needs this system's resources, and diplomatic engagement is preferable to forced oversight." The shuttle landed at the designated site, a military base in what humans called Nevada. A delegation waited on the tarmac, standing stiffly in formal attire despite the desert heat. Captain Steve Miller stepped forward as the alien craft's doors slid open. He had been selected for his calm demeanor and diplomatic experience. Beside him stood Lieutenant Lisa Edwards, Earth's leading xenolinguist, and behind them a small team of scientists and military personnel. "Steady," Steve whispered. "Remember your training." The aliens that emerged looked nothing like the popular media depictions humans had imagined. Vreelox stood nearly 7 feet tall, with skin that shifted colors like a chameleon. 4 arms emerged from a slender torso, and a ridge of sensory organs lined his elongated head. "Greetings, representatives of Earth," Vreelox said, his voice translated through a device at his throat. "The Galactic Confederation extends peaceful contact to your world." Lisa responded in carefully practiced words, using the diplomatic language sent in advance transmissions. Steve watched the alien delegation closely, noting their nervous movements and the way they constantly scanned the horizon. "They're afraid of us," he realized with surprise. The formal introduction ceremony proceeded smoothly until a small tremor shook the ground, a minor earthquake, common in the region. The alien delegation panicked, several members retreating to their shuttle. "Please," Vreelox said, visibly struggling to maintain composure as his skin flashed alarming patterns of yellow and red. "Is this normal?" Steve nodded calmly. "Just a small tremor. Nothing to worry about." Vreelox exchanged glances with his team. "You live with such planetary instability regularly." "Earth can be challenging," Lisa said with a smile. "But we adapt." "Indeed," Vreelox replied, his voice carrying new respect tinged with unease. "Your species' resilience is noteworthy. The Confederation was correct to classify your world as it did. What the aliens didn't know was that humans were far from the most dangerous species Earth had produced. As night approached and plans were made to continue discussions the following day, Steve received a secure communication on his device. "Keep them in the designated areas after sunset." The message read, "The others are curious and wish to observe from a distance." Steve glanced at the darkening sky and smiled. 2 weeks after first contact, the United Earth headquarters in Geneva buzzed with activity. Aliens and humans gathered in the Grand Meeting Hall, where Ambassador Jack Nelson led Earth's diplomatic team. Tall windows let in bright sunlight as officials from both species discussed Earth's entry into the Confederation. As a Class 14 Deathworld, Earth requires special considerations, Jack explained, his voice firm but friendly. "Our people have adapted to survive here. Those adaptations may seem unusual to your scientists." Vreelox nodded, but Science Officer Kraltep looked troubled. The thin, gray alien had spent days analyzing human medical data and found strange inconsistencies. "Ambassador," Kraltep said, "our population scans show unusual patterns. During daylight hours, we detect approximately 8.2 billion humans. At night, this number drops by nearly 15%. Can you explain this discrepancy?" Jack smiled smoothly. "Many humans work underground, in mines, subway systems, and secured facilities that block your scanners." The answer seemed to satisfy most of the aliens, but Kraltep made notes on his datapad. Something didn't add up. After the day's meetings concluded, Dr. Amanda Wright, Earth's chief medical liaison, rushed to find Jack in a private hallway. "They're asking too many questions," she whispered. "Kraltep requested access to our blood banks and medical facilities. He's particularly interested in our blood disorders, as he calls them." Jack frowned. "Deny the request. Cite religious and cultural concerns." "For how long?" "The Confederation is offering advanced medical technology in exchange for biological data. We need those technologies." "Just until we're ready to reveal everything," Jack said. "The President and the Council agree we need to establish ourselves as valuable allies first." That evening, junior diplomat Paxvin decided to explore the human city despite warnings to remain in designated areas after dark. Geneva looked beautiful at night, its lights reflecting off the lake. Walking along a quiet street, he noticed humans watching him from the shadows. Their eyes seemed to reflect light differently than those he had met during daylight hours. "Are you lost, diplomat?" a soft voice asked. Paxvin turned to find a pale human female standing behind him. He hadn't heard her approach, which was disturbing given his species' sensitive hearing. "I am simply exploring," he replied through his translator. "Human cities are fascinating at night." "Indeed they are." The woman smiled, revealing teeth that seemed slightly too sharp. "I'm Olivia. I work as a night liaison for your delegation." "I was not informed of night liaisons," Paxvin said, suddenly nervous. Olivia's smile widened. "We prefer to remain discreet. The day team has their duties, and we have ours." Back at the Confederation Embassy, High Commander Dresnar reviewed security reports with growing concern. "3 of our scientists ventured into unauthorized areas last night," he told Vreelox. "They reported encountering humans with unusual physical capabilities. One claimed to witness a human leap from ground level to a third-story window." "Impossible," Vreelox dismissed. "Even on a high-gravity world like this, such ability would require significant modifications." "There's more," Dresnar continued. "Our biological scans show genetic variations among humans that don't follow normal evolutionary patterns. Some humans register as having significantly slowed metabolic rates, yet move with extraordinary speed." The next morning, Security Chief Nickel Brown arrived at the embassy with a gift basket and a warm smile. "The President wishes to invite your delegation to a special evening reception tomorrow," she announced. "For the first time, you'll meet representatives from all Earth's communities." "All communities?" Vreelox asked. "Yes," Nickel replied carefully. "Until now, you've only met our day representatives. It's time you met our night counterparts as well." As Nicole left, Vreelox turned to Kraltep. Update our security protocols. Something tells me we haven't seen Earth's full capabilities yet. In the underground complex beneath Geneva, a meeting of a very different kind was taking place. Daniel Pierce, looking no older than 30 despite his 3 centuries of existence, addressed the gathered vampire elders. "Tomorrow," he said, his voice echoing in the chamber, "the charade ends. It's time to show the stars what Earth's night children can do." The Confederation Embassy in Chicago stood 14 stories tall, its sleek architecture blending Earth and alien design. Junior diplomat Paxvin worked late, analyzing data about human trading systems. The building felt eerily quiet after most staff had left. A soft sound made Paxvin look up from his desk. He could have sworn someone moved past his doorway, but the corridor appeared empty. He checked the time, nearly midnight. Security protocols stated aliens should not wander alone after dark, but surely inside their own embassy was safe enough. Curious, he stepped into the hallway. "Hello, is someone there?" No answer came, but cool air brushed against his face. Paxvin followed the strange feeling down the corridor. He reached a window overlooking the city and gasped. A human stood on the ledge outside, 13 floors above the street, looking in at him. The human's eyes reflected the light like a nocturnal animal's. The human smiled, revealing sharp teeth, then disappeared downward faster than Paxvin could track. Heart racing, the alien rushed to security. Officer Mreltok reviewed the camera feeds but found nothing. "You've been working too hard," Mreltok said. "Humans cannot climb buildings or survive falls from this height." But the next morning, 2 separate reports came in from aliens who claimed to see humans moving impossibly fast in the shadows near the embassy. Security Chief Nicole Brown assured them it was simply Earth's Olympic athletes training nearby. No one believed her. Lieutenant Paul Howard coordinated security between human forces and alien visitors. His job grew more difficult each day as aliens kept breaking protocol, venturing into restricted areas after sunset. "We lost contact with Ambassador Zolrin last night," High Commander Dresnar reported during a morning briefing. He went to investigate a noise on the embassy roof. His locator signal disappeared. Paul kept his face neutral. "Our teams are searching. I'm sure there's a simple explanation. Like the simple explanation for the blood samples that went missing from our medical lab." Dresnar's voice carried an accusation. "Or perhaps you can explain why our sensors detect movement in areas shown as empty on camera feeds." "Chicago is an old city with many quirks," Paul replied carefully. That evening, the Confederation Security Council held an emergency meeting. Earth representatives were not invited, but the aliens didn't know that Lieutenant Lisa Edwards had planted listening devices in their conference room. "Earth is hiding something dangerous," Kraltep insisted, playing a recording. "This security footage shows a human moving at 60 kilometers per hour, scaling a vertical wall without equipment." The grainy video showed a blur moving up the side of a building. Several aliens gasped. "We must demand answers," said senior diplomat Vreelox, "or consider quarantine protocols." In an underground facility 5 miles away, Lisa Edwards played the alien recording for a different audience. Catherine Grant sat at the head of the table, her pale skin almost luminous under the soft lights. Though she appeared only 30, she had walked Earth for over 500 years. "They've seen too much," Catherine said, her voice carrying the slight accent of her long-ago youth. "The humans can no longer protect our secret." Daniel Pierce nodded in agreement. "Perhaps it's time we stopped hiding. The stars have come to us. Why shouldn't we reach for them as well?" "The President has authorized disclosure," said Lieutenant Paul, who had just arrived. "Tomorrow night at the reception." "Will our kind behave?" asked Lisa, the only human in the room. Catherine's laugh echoed softly. "We've lived alongside humans for millennia, adapting to your changing world. These aliens fear humans from a Class 14 Deathworld. They have no concept of what it means to evolve as a predator on such a world." Daniel's eyes glowed slightly in the dim light. For centuries we hid from humans. Then we made peace. Now together we'll show these visitors why Earth produced not one, but two apex species. As dawn approached, Ambassador Jack Nelson faced a secure video call with President Laura Harrison. "Are the vampires ready?" she asked. Jack nodded. "They're eager to make an impression. Make sure they understand. No feeding on our guests." "Catherine has given her word," Jack assured her. But she did say they might smile a bit. The grand reception hall of Chicago's historic Drake Hotel glowed with soft light. Alien dignitaries mingled awkwardly with human officials, their translator devices creating a constant background hum. Ambassador Jack Nelson checked his watch. 8:45 p.m. Almost time. High Commander Dresnar approached Jack, his scaled skin reflecting blue under the chandeliers. "Ambassador, I must express concern about recent events. 3 of our researchers have gone missing. We demand answers. And you'll have them," Jack replied calmly. "In fact, that's the purpose of tonight's gathering." Detective Sam Rivers stood near the doorway, watching the aliens with amusement. For weeks, he had been assigned to assist the alien investigation team while actually leading them away from the truth. Tonight, his job would change entirely. President Laura Harrison arrived at precisely 9:00 p.m. The room fell silent as she took the small stage at the front of the hall. "Honored representatives of the Galactic Confederation," she began, her voice clear and strong. "When your people discovered Earth, you classified us as a Class 14 Deathworld. You've been impressed by humanity's ability to survive in such harsh conditions. But tonight, you will learn that humans are not the only intelligent species to evolve on Earth." The main doors swung open. A group of pale, elegant figures entered. They moved with unnatural grace, their eyes scanning the room with predatory focus. At their center walked Catherine Grant, wearing a deep red gown that contrasted sharply with her alabaster skin. "May I present the representatives of Earth's vampire communities," President Harrison announced. The aliens stood frozen in shock. Science Officer Kraltep fumbled with his scanner, pointing it toward the newcomers. "Impossible," he whispered. "Their cellular activity is minimal, yet they move. Several show tissue age of centuries, yet appear young." Catherine stepped forward and bowed slightly. "For thousands of years, we lived in secret, first as humanity's predators, then as their uneasy neighbors, and now as their allies. We are Earth's children of the night." Daniel Pierce joined her, his movements so quick that several aliens flinched. "Your scans have been detecting us all along, but your minds couldn't accept what they were seeing." "What exactly are you?" demanded Vreelox, his skin shifting to alarmed orange. "We are vampires," Catherine explained. "We require blood to survive. We are stronger, faster, and more durable than humans. Sunlight harms us. We heal rapidly and do not age after transformation. They are apex predators who evolved alongside us," added President Harrison. "Our shared history is complex and often violent, but we have established peaceful coexistence." Dresnar stepped forward boldly. "If this is true, demonstrate these claimed abilities." Daniel smiled, revealing sharp fangs. In a blur of motion too fast for the aliens to track, he crossed the room, lifted a marble statue that weighed over 200 pounds with one hand, and returned to his original position. "Does that satisfy your curiosity?" Catherine asked. The alien delegation huddled together in urgent discussion. Finally, Vreelox turned to address the humans and vampires. "This changes everything," he said. "Your world harbors not one but 2 intelligent species, one of which possesses capabilities that violate our understanding of biology. The Confederation must reassess Earth's classification immediately." Catherine's laugh was like cold bells ringing. "Are we so frightening, Ambassador? We've been quite restrained. Your missing researchers are safe and unharmed. We merely borrowed them to satisfy our curiosity." As if on cue, the 3 missing aliens were escorted into the hall, looking shaken but uninjured. Olivia, The vampire who had encountered Paxvin nights earlier appeared at the junior diplomat's side. "Now you understand why we smile when your kind calls Earth dangerous," she whispered. "You have no idea what dangerous truly means on our world." President Harrison raised her glass. "To new understandings and stronger alliances, Earth, all of Earth, looks forward to joining the galactic community." The aliens raised their glasses hesitantly, their eyes never leaving the smiling vampires who watched them with ancient predatory eyes. 1 month after the revelation, the Confederation Council held emergency sessions on their homeworld. Earth's classification had been upgraded from Class 14 to Class 19, a designation previously thought theoretical. Meanwhile, negotiations between humans, vampires, and aliens continued in a specially designed chamber in New York. The room had no windows and used artificial light safe for vampires. Daniel Pierce sat across from Vreelox, their teams flanking them on either side. Ambassador Jack Nelson represented human interests, mediating between the two groups. "The Confederation remains concerned about vampire feeding habits," Vreelox stated, his skin a nervous shade of green. "How can we ensure the safety of alien visitors and eventual settlers?" Daniel smiled thinly. "We haven't hunted humans without consent for over a century. Most vampires consume synthesized blood or donations. We have strict laws, enforced by both our elders and human governments." "Still," Vreelox persisted, "your abilities exceed safety parameters for Confederation species interaction. A single vampire could decimate an alien settlement." Catherine Grant, who had been silently observing, leaned forward. "Just as your ships could bombard our cities from orbit, coexistence always requires trust." The negotiations paused when alarms blared through the building. A security officer rushed in. "Confederation outpost at Proxima Centauri reports attack by unknown vessels. They've requested immediate assistance." Jack looked to Daniel. "This might be our chance." 3 days later, the Human Vampire Joint Defense Force assembled on the military spacecraft, Nightwing. Captain Olivia Chen briefed her unusual crew, 20 vampires and 30 human specialists. "The attackers appear to be Krazoth raiders," she explained, pointing to grainy images on the screen. "They've hit 3 Confederation outposts in the past week. Our mission is to defend the Proxima Station and capture their vessels if possible." Major Greg Peterson, a vampire turned during World War I, led the combat team. "Remember our agreement. No feeding on aliens, even hostiles, without direct authorization. The Confederation is watching everything we do." "Will the vacuum of space affect us?" asked Ben Cooper, one of the younger vampires. "Our tests suggest no," replied Dr. Amanda Wright. "Your bodies don't require oxygen the way humans do. Cold and radiation may actually bother you less than they bother us." Back on Earth, vampire clan leaders gathered in an ancient underground chamber beneath Rome. Some argued for remaining hidden, viewing space as humanity's domain. Others saw galactic opportunities. Elder Marcus, nearly 2,000 years old, pounded his fist on the stone table. "For millennia, we skulked in shadows while humans claimed the world. Now the stars are opening to us, and some would have us hide again. I say no more hiding." The debate raged until Catherine Grant, who had returned from New York, entered the chamber. "While we argue," she announced, "our kin already fight among the stars. The Nightwing has engaged Krazoth raiders at Proxima Centauri." Near the Proxima Centauri outpost, the battle unfolded better than anyone expected. When Krazoth boarders cut through the station's hull, they found vampires waiting. The aliens' terror spread through their communication channels as they encountered enemies who moved faster than their targeting systems could track. Major Peterson leaped across empty space between ships without a suit, landing on the Krazoth vessel's hull. He tore open an access panel with his bare hands and slipped inside. Within minutes, the enemy ship's engines shut down. On the Confederation homeworld, the Council watched the battle feeds in stunned silence. "Are all Earth vampires this powerful?" asked High Elder Zinvor. "No," replied Vreelox. "According to our information, these are merely their standard soldiers. Their elders are far stronger." News of Earth's Night Warriors spread quickly across the galaxy. When the Nightwing returned with 3 captured Krasov vessels, Confederation representatives greeted them with a mixture of gratitude and apprehension. Lieutenant Maria Collins, second in command, and a vampire, noticed their discomfort. "They're afraid of us," she whispered to Major Peterson. He nodded, a slight smile on his lips. "Good. Fear will keep the peace better than any treaty." On Earth, President Harrison announced the mission's success to thunderous applause from both humans and vampires. For the first time in history, Earth's 2 apex species stood united, and the galaxy trembled. 6 months after the first space battle, the Krasov launched a major attack against 3 Confederation border worlds. The alien empire had grown bold again, believing the Earth forces were merely lucky in their first encounter. They were wrong. The Confederation Council called an emergency meeting. High Elder Zinvor addressed the gathered representatives with grave concern. "The Krasov fleet numbers over 200 vessels. Our defenses cannot hold all 3 fronts." Ambassador Jack Nelson stood up. "Earth will defend the Orient sector if you can cover the other 2. "With what fleet?" demanded Vreelox. "Your planet has only 7 interstellar warships." Jack smiled. "We don't need many ships when we have the right soldiers." Earth deployed its newly formed Vampire Combat Division. 3 ships carried 60 vampire warriors each, led by Major Greg Peterson. His second in command, Lieutenant Maria Collins, had developed new fighting techniques specifically for space warfare. The command ship Night Hunter reached the Orient sector just as the Krasov fleet began their assault on the peaceful colony world Azuri IV. The colonists watched in terror as enemy ships darkened their skies. Inside the Night Hunter, Maria addressed her team. "Remember your training. Standard vacuum exposure limit is 30 minutes. Use your tethers for long-distance movement. And no feeding on prisoners. We need information." Greg added with a cold smile. "But feel free to smile at them before you attack. I hear it's quite effective." The vampire soldiers launched from their ships wearing minimal protection, just enough equipment to communicate and maneuver in space. Unlike humans, they needed no air, and their bodies resisted extreme cold and radiation. The Krasov never expected enemies to attack through open space. Their sensors detected small objects moving between ships, but dismissed them as debris until vampires began tearing through their hulls with bare hands. Ben Cooper led the first squad into the Krasov flagship. The alien soldiers fired energy weapons, but the vampires moved too quickly, appearing as blurs even to the aliens' advanced targeting systems. "They're demons," cried a Krasov commander as Ben lifted him by the throat. "No," Ben replied through his translator. "We're just from Earth." Back on the Confederation homeworld, officials watched the battle feeds with a mixture of awe and horror. The vampires fought with terrifying efficiency, disabling ships without destroying them, and capturing key Krasov leaders. "I'm starting to understand why Earth produced such creatures," whispered Science Officer Kraltep to Vreelox. "A world that dangerous would favor predators with extraordinary abilities." Vreelox nodded. "And now we've given those predators access to the stars." Within hours, the Krasov fleet retreated, leaving 17 captured vessels behind. The Earth forces suffered no casualties, though several vampires needed extensive blood transfusions to heal from energy weapon burns. News of the victory spread quickly across the galaxy. Confederation species began to view Earth with new respect, but also growing concern. Some politicians quietly suggested that allowing Earth into the Confederation might have been a mistake. On Earth, vampire communities celebrated their new status. For millennia, they had hidden in the shadows. Now they were heroes, defenders of humanity and aliens alike. Catherine Grant met with President Harrison in the Oval Office as reports of the victory came in. "The Krasov will not stay defeated for long," Catherine warned. "And some in the Confederation fear us more than they fear the Krasov." President Harrison nodded. Fear can lead to hatred. We've both seen that pattern in human history. Then we need to make ourselves too valuable to attack, Catherine said. The vampire elders have voted to share certain technologies we've developed over the centuries. Medical advances that might interest the Confederation, such as, Catherine's eyes gleamed, cellular regeneration, extended lifespan, enhanced strength, not immortality or blood dependency, but improvements that would benefit all species. A peace offering, Harrison said with understanding. More like insurance, Catherine replied. After all, you don't attack the doctor who might save your life someday. As the two leaders discussed Earth's future, Lieutenant Maria Collins received new orders. She would become the first vampire ambassador to an alien world, tasked with establishing diplomatic relations with the Drax hegemony, a powerful Confederation member. The stars had never seemed brighter for Earth's night children. 5 years after first contact, Earth celebrated its full membership in the Galactic Confederation. The planet, once classified as a terrifying Class 19 Deathworld, had become one of the most influential members of the galactic community. In orbit, ships from a dozen alien worlds docked at the massive space station Unity. Ambassador Jack Nelson, now serving as Earth's High Representative to the Confederation, stood at the observation deck. Beside him, Catherine Grant watched the Earth turn slowly below them. "Did you ever imagine this?" Jack asked her. "When you were hiding in the shadows all those centuries, did you think vampires would one day walk among the stars?" Catherine's ancient eyes reflected the starlight. "I lived through the times when humans hunted us with torches and stakes. The idea that we would stand together as equals seemed impossible then." On the newly established Earth colony world New Terra, human and vampire settlers worked side by side. The planet orbited a dim red star, perfect for vampire comfort while still habitable for humans. Governor Lisa Edwards oversaw the colony's growth with pride. "The farming sector reports 20% above projected yields," her assistant reported. The vampire night construction crews completed the new medical center 3 weeks ahead of schedule. Lisa nodded. "And the vampire population?" "Stable. The synthetic blood production facility meets all needs, and relations with the human settlers remain positive." This success story repeated across 3 more Earth colonies. The unique partnership between humans and vampires allowed for rapid development that amazed other Confederation species. While humans worked during daylight hours, vampires took over at night, creating around-the-clock productivity that other single-species colonies couldn't match. Meanwhile, vampire biology led to revolutionary medical breakthroughs. Dr. Amanda Wright headed the joint research team that developed treatments based on vampire cellular regeneration. These advances extended lifespans across multiple species and cured diseases previously thought untreatable. Not all news was positive, however. Reports came from distant outposts of vampires developing new abilities in alien environments. Some gained resistance to sunlight, while others displayed psychic powers previously unseen on Earth. The Confederation Security Council monitored these developments with growing concern. The final confrontation with the Krazoth came at Alpha Centauri. The alien empire launched its entire fleet in a desperate bid to destroy Earth's influence. 100 Earth ships met 500 Krazoth vessels in the space near humanity's first interstellar colony. Captain Ryan Cooper commanded the flagship Dawnbreaker. Though only 30 years old in human terms, he had been a vampire for a decade and had fought in every major space battle since first contact. "All vampire units deploy," he ordered as the Krazoth fleet approached. "Operation Nightfall begins now." Nearly 1,000 vampire soldiers launched into space, moving between enemy ships like living missiles. They targeted engines, weapons, and command centers with surgical precision. The human crews provided fire support and captured disabled vessels. From the Confederation observation post, High Elder Zinvor watched in awe. "I have witnessed 300 years of warfare," he told his aides, "but never anything like this." Within hours, the mighty Krazoth fleet lay in ruins. Over 200 ships captured, the rest destroyed or retreated. The Krazoth Empire surrendered unconditionally the next day, ending their threat to galactic peace. After the battle, a young Confederation diplomat approached Captain Cooper as he received medical treatment. "Captain, may I ask you something? My species has studied Earth's history extensively, trying to understand how your world produced not one but two apex predator species." Ryan nodded, sipping from a container of synthetic blood. "Why do vampires always smile before battle?" the diplomat asked. "It seems an unusual reaction to danger." Ryan set down his drink and leaned forward. His eyes gleamed with ancient predatory instinct that had evolved on humanity's deadly homeworld. "We smile," he said softly, "because for thousands of years we were the most dangerous things on a world filled with danger. When you've been the nightmare that terrified humans, the apex predators of a Class 14 Deathworld, everything else seems rather disappointing." The diplomat shivered despite the room's warmth. "Remember that," Ryan continued, "the next time someone dismisses Earth as merely dangerous. We're not dangerous. We're death itself, with a diplomatic course and a smile."